First order of business, Councilman Bringhurst would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then Councilman Ellsworth will offer an opening prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, we bow our heads before thee this evening, and we give you thanks for the opportunity we have to meet together here as residents of Tocqueville. We're grateful for this beautiful little town and for the wonderful opportunities it provides for us. We're grateful for the quiet enjoyment that we have. We're grateful for the beautiful sights that surround us. We're grateful for the chance that we have to live in this beautiful place. We're also grateful for the good people that live here and for the opportunities we have to serve one another. We ask thee now that thy guiding hand may be with us as we discuss matters, that we may receive guidance and inspiration from thee to do those things which are pleasing to thee and which will also be beneficial to our community as a whole. We pray for these things in the sacred name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right. At this time, I do have a few opening comments that I'd like to make. First of all, I would like to congratulate Councilman Chaves and Councilman Sipp for successfully making it through the election and being reelected to their positions.
Oh, it's unofficial. It's unofficial.
Oh, yes, it's official enough. It will actually officially be official a week from tonight when we have our special meeting at 5 o'clock, the city council, to declare it official. But it's official enough.
It's not too close to call.
No, it's not. It's not. I'd also like to congratulate Councilman Ellsworth for his election as the new mayor. I think it would be does anybody know the words to Hail to the Chief?
Nope.
No, I was just thinking we ought to all stand and.
No, that would be completely inappropriate.
Anyway.
It was a tough campaign for him.
Yeah,
It was.
it went right down to the very broad wire, but anyway. No, we appreciate their efforts and their willingness to serve and congratulate them on the job well done in the campaign. Thank you. Other than that, do we have any statements of belief from any members of the audience that would like to be recognized at this time? Okay, hearing none. We move on to approval of agenda. Look over the agenda. I think we do have a suggestion here. Is Fred Philpott here? No, yeah. He's not going to be here. So who is taking item number 1? The discussion of. Oh, okay, just for us. Okay. All right. Are there anything you would like to see changed on the agenda order?
May I move we approve the agenda order?
Didn't you have something you wanted to say?
Right. Move Mr. Foley up to number 1. He's only got to take a couple of minutes, and then we can get on with the more lengthy discussion of the. Okay, he's here. It would help him out.
There's no reason why we couldn't put them right with the under section D under the presentation just before Mr. Goober.
Yeah.
So move.
I like that.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Drone, you will go immediately after we finish then with our department reports. And I'll let you know when that is. Okay, anything else? Disclosures of conflict of interest from Special Services District is not here, so Hurricane Valley Fire, Mr. Spindler.
Okay, had a busy month in October. Not too bad over here. We came through town quite a few times to the freeway, but we had 417 calls listed. I know we can't count all those because sometimes dispatch messes up and gives us assign something from another town to one of our numbers. So I'd say we probably had about 400 calls in October. So that kept us pretty busy. That's fire and medical and total for the month. Yeah. I think we're probably in a couple more weeks we'll bypass last year's total for total calls. So we just keep getting busier and busier. We had 9 medicals over here last month. We had two calls that we got called over for and canceled before we got here, and 1 fire call. So total of 12 calls over in this area. Although you probably saw us coming through a lot more. Had 1 call this week up to Toker Falls. That's a beautiful road, and be proud of that. I haven't been up there for a couple of years, but I'm glad I don't know if I would take my 4-wheeler up there or not. But when the call came out, I was at home, and it was in the early afternoon on Saturday. I think it was Saturday. Yeah, Saturday. Trying to get ready for all the trick-or-treaters to come by because we like to do a hot dog roast and stuff like that at the house. And my wife says, "Well, you got to go." And I said, "I've got to go. I got to go take the Humvee up there. I don't want them taking the ambulance up that road." I don't think we'd have got very far up that road with the ambulance, but the gentleman ran off the road on a 4-wheeler, and pretty lucky he got his legs tore up a little bit, but lucky it didn't kill him. The bike come down on top of him, and there's some sharp rocks up there. So he went right through all those. But yeah, so if you see us going up that road, we'll probably be having the red Humvee coming up there. That thing goes pretty good up that road. It's a lot easier coming down than up. Going up, you can see all the holes. Coming down, you don't see them until you fall in them. So I don't know. Yeah. So, and then burn permits are still open. Some days they'll still be closed because of the index and having to be above 500, so the smoke actually goes up instead of doesn't settle down on our towns and stuff like that. So I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing that we'll probably see that stay open through the end of the year, so people can clean up their gardens and stuff like that and limbs. No, it'll just usually when you go onto it. I had a couple people call me on Saturday, and it says that it's closed. It wouldn't give them a permit, and that's usually, but it does say that it's probably closed because of the index. So keep trying, that it should be open. So, you have any questions? It's a reading that comes on. The dispatch pulls it up each morning. There's this website that they can pull that up, and it shows areas of the state, and it shows the index and it'll give you a projected index for the days coming up, even though it can change. So just so let that smoke get up out of the valley instead of trapped down in the valley. So that's one. Yeah, that's the original one. That's usually our burn season, but we didn't even open until probably the middle of October. So they should give us at least 45 days for that. So yeah, and it'll be closed right now because it's after hours. They don't want you burning in the evening, and everybody comes home and have people burning stuff. So, and if you need to, call us at the station. And I think the main thing, we want people to clean up and have their yards clean and stuff like that. That helps us out too. So they give us a call. We can usually, as long as we know that something's going on, it saves us a trip over. If a neighbor calls in, that's they just got away from somebody. So, any other questions?
Oh, by the way, just before Lance reports, we do have a little bit different situation here now. We have kind of rearranged our public works area a little bit. Lance is now officially over all the water and the streets, and JD Adams here, who's worked for us for many years, will be over everything else in town. So you can start naming them off, but parks and the cemetery and all of that kind of stuff will fall under JD. So Lance will be reporting streets and water, and JD, if you'd like to take a minute, if you have anything you want to report on the other stuff.
Okay, first of all, we did have landmark testing, do a little bit of testing up by the water tank. They found water, so luckily it wasn't ours. It was the water district's 15-inch line, so they did get a little wet, and they are They found it, yeah. For about an hour there, we were scrambling, shutting everything we had off, trying to make sure it wasn't ours. We didn't know all there was a lot of water coming out of the ground. But there is water up that road. So we ended up locating that. A lot of people have been talking to us about the grubbing that's been taking place. I don't know if you guys have gone out south, out by Firelight, or even out there at Settlers. They're starting to do a lot of grubbing, cutting down the trees, getting ready for their projects and doing all that. They did say that there's possibility there could be some firewood that could be available, but you'd need to contact, me and let me know so I can contact them. But they do have some firewood that they were trying to get rid of. They had a lot of volunteers last weekend, but he said it's starting to fall through, so they do have some firewood out there if people want to. Juniper. Yep. So they do have some of that, and that is taking place. So a lot of things are happening there. Our projects, I do know that the Pond Road and the Westfield Road is coming up to Planning Commission, I believe, this next week. So they'll be addressing that and dealing with that. So
There's going to be a lot of changes on Ponto Road.
yeah, a lot of things are going to be taking place coming up. So the tidal wave's coming. We can see it now.
So grubbing's a formal term. What kind of permit do they need before they're grubbing? Is it a grading permit? Is it, what kind of approvals do they need?
Generally, all they're doing is taking off the surface material. They're not doing any excavation. They're not digging down. They're just taking it off, kind of clearing a spot for the roads and everything. So we really don't require them to do anything yet until, they start doing excavating, tearing up things, as far as digging holes and doing excavating to grades. Once they start doing grades and start moving a lot of dirt, just doing the topsoil really.
There's two things happening out there. You have Settlers Cove,
Or Settlers.
the corner, the very north piece. They have a grading permit issue, so they're going to do mass excavation. The next piece.
Now we're talking Anderson Junction.
This is Anderson Junction, yes.
So the next piece, just south, is the Bodega Group, which is Darcy's, and they're cutting trees off. They have no grading permit, so just be aware of that. If somebody asks, there definitely is a grading permit issued on one, but not on the other. And then Darcy's group also went. They took a dozer and they grubbed off the road. They were to Lowe's the last time I was out on it, so that we got a show me trip that's going to go down that road, and they're supposed to doze the trip road along the.
DOT,
What's that?
show me trip.
Yeah. So they're just so we can drive it right along the center line. So if you go out there now, you'll see stakes, and they have white, like 2-inch white PVC standing up. Those are the center lines of the future roads. So there's some of their on-site roads, and then some that are the Parkway. So that's.
I thought Lynch was talking about south. So are you talking about grubbing that's taking place?
Well, just out west of town, the racetrack.
Okay.
And the road that Ty's talking about.
So it's still open to the residents that are going out recreational, driving out in that area?
Yeah, nobody's going to do anything.
It is, as long as, if they get out there and start tearing out stakes and doing damage, I'm sure there'll probably be some signs posted, but hopefully people are respectful. That's all I have in there.
JD?
We seeded all the graves at the cemetery, and they started doing some concrete work at the Westfield Park. And we got the storm drain installed for that playground area, and it's what we've been up to.
Any questions for the answer of JD? We will turn some time over to you if you'd like to address the city at this time.
Yes, August Body.
Agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate being with you this evening and for your support on Reefs Across America. I've asked Greg Turner and his wife to work with Chuck and handling Tocqueville Cemetery this year. We'll place flags on the headstones identifying them on Saturday, the 11th of December. We'll need help to do that, of course. And we will place the wreaths on Saturday, the 18th of December, 10 a.m. There'll be a short program, some music, a speaker, and then placement of the wreaths on that Saturday. They'll remain on the wreaths, on the headstones until after the first of the year, at which time the city will need to retrieve them and dispose of them. They are live wreaths. They are not plastic. They are live evergreens. I'm stepping back this year to take care of Laverican. I have the responsibility of the Hurricane Valley this year, and we haven't had Laverican participate in past years, but they're going to this year. So I'll be over there, and Greg and his family will take care of Tocqueville. Again, we thank you for your support. We'll get the exact count of wreaths, and when Chuck provides that to me, we'll get you an invoice to cut a check to pay for the wreaths. Are there any questions at this time? I'm sorry? 10 a.m. Same time.
What's the cost per wreath?
They're $15 per wreath. And the 7 service wreaths are provided as a courtesy without cost, but they represent each of the 7 services. And we're going to do a little something a little more appropriate this year than we did last year. Greg is going to have an arrangement where we can actually set the wreaths up for viewing, as opposed to last year we just laid them on the ground. And we'd rather do that a little more officially. We'll do that this year. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Gordon? Awesome. We appreciate your efforts, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I can tell you as a Gold Star father, it's a real treat to see a beautiful Christmas wreath on your son's headstone. It's a real nice gesture. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, presentation, water meter discussion, Lance.
Okay, this discussion has come up back in 2013 when we did our water project, Tocqueville Heights, down through. We went in and replaced all of our water meters with the master meter system that did all of our, because we weren't able to do what they called a check on people's data log check on people's water, if they had a water leak. The way it was, basically, if you had a water leak, you were notified about 40 days after the fact that from your last time you got your meter. Some people had enormous amounts, so the data log technology was wonderful. It got, for the first 5-7 years, it worked great. We had no failures. Everything was going well. We started having problems. It didn't want to reach where we needed it to reach. We started having some issues. So at the water show, we come across another product that we decided, well, let's try this. It's a new cellular product. So in talking to the mayor and trying to see if we could do an infrastructure, see if it would even work, because we got some areas down at the Cahoon's property, down at Hunter Lane, down at Litchfield's property, some places that we just had a hard time. We never could get any reach down in those areas. So we installed 6 of these Badger units, and they've been working now. We started those things back in like November of 2021. I think we got 6 of those units to put in. We haven't had any, they've all read, so the reaching is actually really good. In talking with Master Meter and talking to Schultz's, who is our local supplier, they wanted to upgrade our system to what they call a 4G technology. It's a new technology similar to the Badger product. It is a good product. It works. It's based upon radio frequency. You put up a base station You put up transformers out in the field. It reads them, and if you do have a problem spot, you can put these smaller, cheaper repeaters up closer to it, and it'll actually pick up all your readings. So we've dealt with Schultzens, trying to get a comparable comparison between Master Meter and Badger. What we've done is tried to do a comparison. We've been working on this, as you guys know, for 2 years. I think it was almost a year and a half ago. We had a presentation from both companies that came and talked to us, so it's been talked about. When we did these, our hope was to be able to get the citizens to be more aware. The state's trying to make the water masters more aware of their water usage. The only way we can do that is pass that on to the consumer and make the consumer more aware of their usage. So some of these places we put them in. I actually went around to the city council. We put one in at every one of your homes and the mayor's place to give you guys the opportunity to try and utilize them. I know some of you did, some of you did not. Some of you found leaks and it was able to identify those things, and it worked well. So the technology, both systems will be able to now are able to work off of your cell phone. They'll both be able to give you the data on either a 12-hour rotation or on a 4-hour rotation. The cellular being the quicker technology in that one, but you still have the data within 24 hours. So if there is a leak, you're notified. So it either come on your text messages or it'll come directly to you. So it's a great technology that is out there, and that's the reason we'd like to try to upgrade our water meter systems. That's the reason we're having this discussion. Now, if we get into the nuts and bolts of the difference between the two. Yeah. Goes to the customer's phone. It'll go directly to the customer's phone. Yes, you can get that. Hurricane has that, I think, Merlin. Yeah. I don't know if they've made it. Yeah, I don't know if they've made it public, but we had a lot of customers. Kent Havens had a $1,600 water bill. Maybe I'm not supposed to say that, but he had a $1,600 water bill, had a leak last week. So, he was able to, if he would have had this, we was able to get an abatement. So he got help on it. So we do have things, that we can help people on, but trying to stop that from people getting that shock when they get that water bill is the main reason we wanted to do this. So this is kind of both systems. If you look up on this screen, both systems, this is actually the Badger, but I will say the Master Meter system has pretty much the same format on it. If you compare product to product, they're almost sixes. I mean, they will, both of them give you a daily read. They'll give you how many gallons you're utilizing, how much you're having flow. They'll tell you when you have a leak, how big your leak is. So the data is available to the customer so they can actually see. We had a gentleman up on Tocqueville Heights that we put this in for. He found out that he was, they get 30,000 gallons, and he was going over his 30,000 gallons, and he couldn't believe it. So he actually went and bought a 55-gallon drum, filled it up, checked his meter, actually found out that he had his sprinkler system was using way, way too much water. So he was able to cut his water usage in half. So when people utilize it, it can really help people know what they're using. So it's a good product. The difference between Master Meter and Badger, it basically comes down to infrastructure and cost. With Master Meter, it's called Legre. They have a base station. Base station is going to be a tower that we're going to put up. We'd like to put it out there at the Westfields tank by the new bypass road. It's going to be a 70-foot tower. It's not going to be a tower. It's going to be a 40-foot pole with 30-foot. It'll be a 40-foot telephone pole with a 30-foot pipe sticking up on the top of it. It'll be out there by the water tank. Not the look of it right there, but that's the best space we can put it in town to service everything. So it's that's where we're looking at doing it. So your base station, the costs are right there. The next thing we have to do is we have to have the next one's the receiver, I believe. So one's 57,000, isn't it?
For the infrastructure, the tower, the repeater, FCC license, and all that is $57,000. And you have the programming software, which is the programming system. This is what we're asking you for. This is still all the training and optional customer portal is $17,000. For the receivers and the antenna for the reading system, is $2,500. The laptop is $10,000.
We talked to them yesterday, we already have that laptop. They said that 10,000. No. They can upgrade the one you have. What they were telling us. Yeah, I'm just letting you know.
The one we actually have is pretty old, so it's 3 or 4 years old. But we may be able to utilize it, but we'll probably have to upgrade it as a technology to upgrade.
Then after the first year, there's a yearly service agreement after that. The base station is $5,000 for maintenance. The repeaters $350, and the software support is $3,850. So $92,000 a year. Total for everything is $96,000.
Well, but that's 9,200. I can't read it from here, but that's yearly. So for the first year.
Yeah, the first year, that's part of it. 9,000 comes
And
out.
after that, annually we'll have a $9,200.
Okay. So that 9,200 is not included in the bottom line with this?
Actually, the 9,200 comes out of this total because it comes with your first year. So that would be.
Okay, so that first year's paid for, and then
Yep.
it's 9,200 yearly, annually after that. And is the 9,200 the total yearly cost at that point?
At that point. And then we just got the maintenance, on the repeaters, transformers, and on the base station. But the only thing I don't know, they don't cover lightning, they don't cover fire damage, they don't cover general maintenance repairs on the internal. I think it has a 1-year warranty on their products, is what I was told from Hurricane.
Their product includes the repeater?
Transformers or repeaters, those are electronic components that just can't. Those things, somebody shoots it, we're gonna be responsible for that kind of stuff. We're gonna have to put up power. One thing that this doesn't thing, we have to get power out to the thing. We got to get solar, whether or not we're gonna run power, we gotta do that. So there's a little bit more infrastructure that we're gonna have to put in. There are some extra costs, but they should be pretty minimal. I mean, minimal in the back of our out.
This gives you the opportunity, auto feeds to your computer.
Everything from here will go auto feed. We will not have to go out and read. Everything will go directly to data.
Drive by like.
No, we won't have to drive by like we've done in the past. Everything, we get that report, if the water, I'll get that report every morning so I can see it. If there's a leak in it, I can call Keen and say, Keen, it looks like you have a leak here. So Keen can address that. So it gives us more control of where our water's going. Both systems like this, both of these systems, to be honest with you, they do that exact same thing. They're able to do it. Now, if we go to
The bottom line on this
bottom line on this,
is $92,000 the first year?
it'd be about 90.
Put everything-
Call it 100.
What's that?
Call it 100.
$100,000 the first year to put it in, and then $9,200 a year after that,
Correct.
plus maintenance.
Plus
What's
maintenance.
that?
if there's
How many
any-
meters are included in that?
Do we have any history from anybody else that's used it on what maintenance is like?
They just started on this particular, this 4G technology. It's been out about 4 years. Hurricane City's got it on 4 years, and they're trying to get the reserve license well. I'm trying to think, Delta has had it, Carrollton is on it, Washington City is actually, they're on, this particular unit, so they're staying on the unit. So the borough can actually been on it, so that's where we're at.
But I would-
Luckily, there's quite a few.
I would be interested to know what people are paying annually for maintenance.
Hurricane's paying more, it's basically on your maintenance, on your yearly maintenance, based on how many units you have.
So the more units you have, that cost does go up. Hurricane takes more, the Hurricane takes more than what we do. And it's based
Well,
on how many.
we're gonna be going up in a hurry as far as number of units. Whatever whatever we go with.
Well, it's like
We're gonna be
Hurricane
on par
right
with
now.
everybody
Hurricane is going up. I was told yesterday that I think they did like 84 meters last month. So they're going
Replaced
up.
them?
No,
Repair?
new
construction.
new
Oh,
construction
okay.
going on. So they're looking at about 800 units a year, to 1,000 units of Hurricane. So that's twice, 3 times the size we are. So, and they have some big developers similar to what ours is. They're coming in there, they're on the group, and a bunch of companies that are coming in and doing it. So Hurricane right now, I think has over 30,000 units.
Somewhere there's gotta be an average cost per 100 units or something like that for a maintenance cost. Somebody's done that somewhere.
And I don't know on that, with that, most of the 5G technology, 4G technology, the only one I could go off is what Hurricane has. Because they're the ones that go
Yeah.
off. Delta's had it, Delta started out 3G and then they went to 4G. To be honest with you, Delta was the guinea pig. So when I talked to Delta, they were wishy-washy whether or not they liked the unit or they didn't. Now that all the worms are out of it, they're pretty happy with the product. There for a while, they were, like us, they were frustrated with what they were doing. So,
Mayor, I can add,
Yeah.
what was represented to us in that meeting was that your maintenance costs were probably somewhere around 20 to 30 cents per month
Per unit.
unit.
That's kind of what I was looking for.
Yeah, but that was a rough estimate without any real data behind it. They were just kind of estimating based on what their experiences have been.
okay, so that's where we're at with master meter. And one thing that I started looking at master meter, I actually went to their webpage. And they show a particular model, a particular unit that is different than what we're utilizing today. The reason why is I wanted to make sure we're getting the most up-to-date unit. I hate to get something that's going to be outdated before we even are able to do it. So they have this particular.
Is it a different valve or what is it?
It's a different meter than what we have. The meter we have now is a mechanical meter. Basically, the water flows through it, you have moving parts, and it actually will, you just have moving parts. This particular unit has no filter, the water just flows through. It's called Sonata. It's it's their new product, and just to give you an idea, this is some of the research. This is the gentleman who came to talk to us here 2 years ago.
Water District is actually used different product, but they're going to the same technology. they have to go to this type of products now because with the irrigation, they don't want any type of obstruction. So they're trying to go to this. And that's one of the reasons Master Meter switched to this, so they could be more competitive with some of the other products out there. I think they're using Census products is what they're using. And they've had some problems with those. But it's just a matter of exactly, you'd have to talk to them. And talking to them, some of them work great and some of them are not. I know that Mayor was saying that he has never been able to get his one to work with the water district. So
Never been accurate at all.
so they haven't, they're so busy. I'll be honest with you. Their field guys are so busy. They haven't been able to stay up on it. And they got the funding for it. And so that's what they went with. So that is pretty much the Master Meter product. Now, if you end up going to bad, yes.
Total, I saw a line on 32 for Master Meter, showed the meter cost per meter.
Meter cost per meter is like $162 per meter. Hurricane right now, huh? No. As we do it, we're going to have to replace those. Now, if we stay with the old set, just on we have 700 meters out there right now. So they'll give us a register to put up on the meters that we have out there, and that costs us like $138 for the new register. And then we put that new register on top of that, and that will hopefully go to the new 4G. Then thereafter, everything we buy will be 4G new meters. It'll be all their new technology.
The register's $130 something, and the new meter is.
The new meters are just 161, I think, is $162. Yes, and so that I just assume go to a new meter. Be honest, and get rid of the older ones. But the now, if you go to the Sonata, which is the new 5G, the new 5G, that's their new technology, and that was the one. And that meter there, if you go to that one, it's going to be like 223. It's 223. So it is more. Yeah. But it just seems like it has a longer warranty, a better product, and it's what Master Meter is throwing their publications and everything out of. And I would just assume stay at the top. If I were going to go with it, I'd just assume go with their best and not their, leftovers.
Here's you don't have to replace all of our meters today. We can continue to run with 3G, and as we go forward, as we replace them, we can replace them 10 or 20 at a time. So it's not a we have to come up with $500,000 today to replace all the water meters.
The only thing we're going to be coming up with is that initial $100,000 and plus whatever else it is. So that would be our initial after if we ended up going with Master Meter, you're looking at basically you're just going to replace the meter as they fell. We replace them, or we go with the new Sonata as it goes through. And with the technology that is available, there may be we come up with the idea, there may be an additional charge on the meter, $1 a month on the meter, just to help cover that $100,000 cost in the long term.
In essence, if we spend $100,000 on basically the infrastructure and the software and so on, and we don't start spending $130 for new registers or the $230 for Sonata, it's basically $100,000 is wasted unless we start getting these meters connected.
Correct. It has to be, the infrastructure, you have to have the infrastructure in before you would be able to utilize it. 3G you can still utilize the ones we have, but those are the ones that they're trying to discontinue. So yes, we need to upgrade. In order to get everything working the way it's going to take a while, but we have to put that infrastructure in and then slowly start replacing it. We don't have to go out and do that all at once, like Kristen said. We can continue just replacing them as they fell. Right now, we're having failures. I think 179 failures on our last year. So we're having issues. It's something we just need to address. So that's why we're having this discussion. So we're looking at about $100,000 out of pocket. If we were going to go with this and put this stuff up, like I said, hurricane in it, and you'd have to. Hans is doing a lot of meter over there, and he's been doing it. But, Hans, they're having about a 96% is what Hans says they're having on their success on the meters. So they still have areas that are not being used, so they're going to have to put some transmitters out there.
neat thing about Hurricane is they own their own power pole, so they have the opportunity to power plant and do that. I talked to Rocky Mountain Power, to see what they would do with allowing us to put transmitters, and they said, you know, we don't put your stuff on a pole. So, anyway, that's just Rocky Mountain Power's policy. Kind of really great. Now we go to Badger. On the Badger product, we get we initially, when we signed up with this particular thing, we had these were our costs. We got $2,500. We got a buy-in to try to do their product. It was a discount or starter kit. We actually put that in, went out and installed it, and that was where we got the initial buy-in to go down to put it down at Mark, down at Harris Place, down at Richfield, and actually put some on your councilman's homes. That was our initial starter kit, to see how this thing worked and how it's done and how it's with this particular unit. We put it in, we end up putting a new lid in. It's a plastic lid. The transponder comes off the top of the lid. It doesn't have to reach down into the hole to read the meter. So the signal is sent off the top of the lid. It is a plastic lid. Gives you a better technology. Hurricane at the present time, Juan was telling me, they are looking at replacing all their metal lids and going to plastic, because that's one of the things they're finding out. They're having some problems with the metal and the radio transmitter signal getting out. But they're replacing the plastic lids, and he says it's saving or it's helping their product a lot. So with this particular product, we spent $2,500 to get us into the thing. The meter costs at the end point is $288 for the meter, for the end point, for your lid, everything you're pretty much going to be looking at per unit. So that's what we'll be looking at.
But the 288 includes the lid?
It does. Yeah. But you're looking at your, so we have, the only thing that we have in addition to buying, because we bought the early input, the early engagement fee is the actual $38.50, which ties it into the computer, so we're getting that similar to the same with master meter. So that goes directly to the computer, and gets it, we get it every day, we can read it, we have that technology available to us and to our citizens, so they can do it on their cell phone. So that's, now on a yearly cost, with Badger, there is no yearly cost.
Before we get to the yearly cost, it sounds like there isn't one. Bottom line on infrastructure for this system is
Zero. And that's the thing, there is no maintenance cost on this. This particular unit, it is all cellular. So everything runs off satellite gets hit, your repeater gets hit, Verizon will come out. It's not our problem. So basically, this is all cellular. It's just ran off cellular system. It sends everything out. You get it directly. And I will say that they're probably going to get a lot better response than what we can get in corporate level. We have a problem. We don't have the technology. We have to find somebody to fix ourselves. So that's the thing. There is no, as far as monthly costs. Now, on this particular unit, there is 93 cents a month that is charged to the city. It's $12 more a year per meter. But that includes your server storage, your customer service, your customer web portal, your warranty is all covered in that 93, $12 more. So if you add that up, compared to the 9,200 with what we have 7 times 9 here, 54, 63. So you're $6,300, $6,500 a year is what that at the present time would cost us a year.
That's only if we did all of them. If we only phase them in,
If you phase them in, it's only that, well, yeah.
so if we do 10 or 15 a year, then we're talking 10 or 15 times.
10 or 15. This
No,
don't have
it's the
to.
same thing. With this particular unit, the way it's set up, we spend the $3,800. We already got, all we do is go out there and hook them up and we're done. There's no other cost to doing it. So that's all we do. Now, this 93 cents, the more units you put in, the actual cost actually decreases. Similar to what I told you with master meters do, with their costs. Well, the more meters you put in, the less you're gonna be charged on this particular subject cost. Now, they have no control, you know, prices could go up, you know, and they always do, that seems to be a given. But they try to keep those, you know, they've had that, I think, right there in the 90 cent, you know, for the last 8 years since this technology has been out, but it's not up.
Well, I imagine master meter could probably go up just the same way.
I'll be honest with you, right now, Schultz's is having a hard time getting components just like everybody else is. Just like hydro specialists, you know, everybody is just struggling with the product. The chips is hitting everybody, and it's just a trickle down effect.
Across the board.
Right now, I'm talking to Hurricane, they actually went in and bought everything that Schultz has had. They've got some more coming in December. You know, I'm talking to hydro specialists right now. Luckily they got 32 cities on their system, so they got a better, and they said they got them in stock. That's just a matter of some time. Supply. So no matter what product we go to. Now on this Badger particular meter, we have the Badger. Trying to think, is there anything else on this?
So, from the city standpoint, when we log in and we get all our information in this system, everything can be done off the computer. Right now, communication, we have 100% read success rate. That's all the way from the bottom of Hunter Lane to the bottom of Shangri-La, to the Heights, all the way Westfields, Queens Drive, they're all over the place. It lets us know if there is a reporting issue, like the endpoint tamper, so if somebody not put it off or something happened, we just go out and see what the deal is and fix it. It gives us alarms if the meter's not being used, if there was backflow, if there was something funky, it says, oh, hey, there's something wrong here. This one is on a brand new lot, so they haven't used it, so it says that the meter is empty at the moment. But when we go and pull this up every month for reads, like as a system overview, it will tell you if you use more water or less water between this week and last week. And we can go and look at the billing reads. We can go and see how many leaks are throughout the whole city. If there was no flows, if there was continuous flow, breaks down every person in the city by how much they used, and rates them.
Yes, go past that real fast, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw my name on it.
Thank you, have a lot. That's good, eh? When we pull it up though, this is every meter in the city, so as of today, 37 meters, there was 3,911 gallons flowing through all those meters. You can see every day, every month, there was how much. You can pull down and see all the different numbers, if they're up for the week, or if they're down for the week. Still a blue dot tells us that they got the Eye on Water, which is the customer portal, which is a free app on the phone.
Now all this information, this is available on either one, right?
Like I said earlier, both applications have this technology available.
Okay.
Just to confirm, in addition to what Councilman Ellsworth mentioned, both the customers, both on either system, the customers will get an alert via email or text message.
However they want to set it up. So
Okay.
however they want to set it up.
So
they-
both, because most people don't look at their water usage every day.
They,
But if there's a problem, I just wanted to make sure both systems would send an alert.
both systems, like I said, when you get into this portal system, I'll be honest with you, the technology's out there, they upgrade, you know, they continue. Technology's there. Once you get onto the computer, once you get to this format, to be honest with you, I really couldn't tell you what's greater than the other one. You know, which one would give you the better thing. The only difference is Badger gives you a read every 4 hours, Master Meters every 12 hours. And I think that technology is just based upon the battery life, where it's located and everything. You know, 12 hours, you know, you shouldn't need to read that much. You do, you should do it. That's, it makes the customer aware of what they're utilizing. not everybody's going to utilize this, but those that do, it really does help save us with the conservation efforts in the state, the United States is trying to do, what the county's trying to do. This is where they're trying to push. Most of the cities is trying to make the citizens more aware of their costs.
Now, you mentioned you have some pilot tests going out throughout the city. Are you testing Badger and master meter both, or
We
you
have
just?
a bit, with 4G technology, we have to have the infrastructure in place. You gotta have the towers, you gotta have all that.
So you couldn't really pilot
couldn't.
test?
You gotta spend
The only
$100,000.
thing we can go off is what the hurricane and hurricanes been one. Not over and saw their stuff and how they're doing it, and, you know, their initial costs. When you look at that initial cost and you break it down with maintenance, you know, the more people come in, that 93 cents goes up with every person that comes in. If you end up utilizing this, you add $1, you know, a month to your meter rate, $12 a year, you know, so every month, instead of $55 or $56. And so that is covered in technology costs. And you can do it for each system, so it helps pay for that technology that we're actually providing the citizens. So that's the way to help cover some of this cost. The other thing, the only difference between these two products, one is a radio, the other one is cellular. They both, I believe, are good products. The biggest problem we're actually having with these units is the initial cost for $100,000 that comes out of the water department. We have that. We can be able to put that up. But that initial $100,000 comes out of the citizens, the 700 citizens that meters we're using now. The people moving in here aren't paying for that. It's the citizens that live here now. We have to pay for the infrastructure for them. The other one, they pay for it as they come. They come in and pay for it. It's all done. There's no initial cost.
But we could just, if we're putting a tower out there to feed the other side of the valley, as the developers come in, say you've got to pay for.
Participate with that.
Exactly.
Well,
So-
we have that, you know, that, because right now, I Anderson Junction, we're looking at redoing that, and I got a phone call from the district, and they want us to run that. So they don't want to be a
In order to wrap this up, couple things. Think about this for a minute, and then we'll let you, we need a bottom line, both products. What it's gonna cost up front, what it's gonna cost ongoing. The other thing is that bothers me a little bit, you know, we're using 3G right now, just talking about going to 4G. Well, 5G's out there and has been for some time. So when we update, when we spend the money to put down the infrastructure, is it 5G? Is that what you're telling me? It's 4G. So when they go to 5G, which is probably about the time that 6G will come out,
Well, and that's the reason.
are we going to have to update all of that infrastructure at that point? Spend another $100,000?
Hopefully you won't with the infrastructure, you stay with the radio, you should be able to still utilize your same system. Hopefully it stays with that.
Are they going to support that system
Unless
though?
they change. You know what, when we started this in 2013, when we did the water project, we went to their latest and greatest that they offered us, which was 3G. And here we're at 2021, they're replacing with 4G. So technology changes, you know, they're gonna come up, I can't guarantee it's not. They always want to get better ideas.
But if you use cellular, you're not in charge of updating that.
No, I don't have to worry about updating it. I don't have to worry about
The phone company does that, cell phone.
correct.
When the cellular system will save you labor costs, because all you got to do is click quality report, it's instant. Right now, we have to go drive by, it's about a day and a half. So by the time we go, have 3 weeks, something that would miscalculate it.
Well, so JD, I would be careful what you share there because you're sharing technology from an iPhone 1 versus an iPhone 12. So just make sure you keep everything apples to apples as you discern what we're doing here.
Apples to apples.
Yeah, and
Apples to oranges.
Once you put the infrastructure in, we will have that same technology. I mean, the infrastructure, once it's put in with master meter, will give us the same instant reading capabilities is what that will give us. It's not, so both of them are gonna be sent directly to Dana, directly to the customer, and directly to me that we can actually keep an eye on.
So why don't we spend $100,000 for a 4G program when we get a 5G program that already doesn't require $100,000?
There's some reason, there's some, here's it is. We put the system in, we own the system, it's ours. So in 2 years, we have an extra 2,000 homes out here, or three, however many years, that's $1 a month per home forever. Or if it goes up to $1.50 a month. Once that keeps rising, we keep paying that every month, we have no control. If you put the system in, our costs stay the same, whether it goes, that maintenance is the same every year. Every year we pay for it in 3 years. It's our system. We don't pay for it every month. You take the $1 a month you're charging, you put it in a kitty, so if something goes bad, a repeater, and you have the money to go replace it. That way you're not relying on somebody else's system. You're not paying cellular bills every month that go up. So it's back to, we control the system, we own the system, versus we let the outside take care of it.
Well, what you would end up doing is the end user is going to pay that 93 cents a month.
That, yeah, it doesn't matter.
The end user is gonna put-
The end user is gonna end up
Paying for all of it regardless.
So they're gonna pay.
Well, I think, to say that the citizens here are gonna pay $100K to put in structures is probably not a correct statement either, because we could take that, you could start switching out meters today, put in new meters, read them with old systems. And as development comes in, you pass that on, that 100K on to development as it comes in. So there's like a lot of ways to skin this thing, to make it work out.
I just honestly, I do the simple math. I'm this simple guy. I figure if we have 3,500 homes in town in 5 years, you times that by 12, that's $42,000 a year you're paying for cellular. That's just the cellular cost. So yes, the homeowners are going to pay for it, but if it cost us a third of that and we took the rest of the money and set it aside for maintenance, if something happened, and then every year that we have the money, there's something there.
They're going to have to pay for that initial infrastructure too.
Yeah, there's if we replace the Badger meter, and they're both good systems. If you replace your Badger meters, you're $288 a piece. You buy the brand new, the high end 5G, the new is less money than that even. So if you look at it,
Meter cost, I don't see much difference in technology that's available there. Like I said, these units are almost sixes. They're gonna give us both the same deal as, you just got costs up front, long term, like Justin saying, how we want to move forward. I'll be honest, and I'll be the first to say this, I just don't look forward to a 70-foot pole sitting out there with water main on top of that deal. With the winds that we have and the way it works, I went over the hurricane, I looked at the ones in hurricane, to me, it was correct. Especially coming right on the bypass road right there.
But
That's
Lance,
my-
we can make those things look like palm trees or like Christmas trees.
I just gotta get tired of letting me get a boom truck.
That's a quick question. Why will they not guarantee it?
It's just,
That's more of a worry of me.
well, it's just to let, those are things that are called act of God, same reason we have those. There's certain things they have no control over. And electronics and, power surges happen. They happen every day in our refrigerators. You can't warrant that type of stuff. So I don't blame them. That's just part of the system.
Well, and council needs to be aware as you move forward with this, you're never going to stay caught up with technology. That's why we're having this conversation again, quite frankly. This stuff will be outdated and antiquated in 10 years at tops, and we'll be having this same conversation.
I talked to one of the gentlemen today, and they were just saying that systems are generally 7 to 8 years, and that's something we have to. So
If I may, there's another point that Master Meter made that I thought was really interesting, and that is they have the exact same cellular technology for their meters that Badger does, but they don't push it. They don't want to push it. They want to push this system because they feel like a standalone Whereas Dustin said, you own it and you maintain it, but it's your own. Whereas on the cellular side, they don't have control over how much that cellular cost is going to be every, year in and year out. And so they just don't, they have that technology. They even have it. We could buy it from them if we wanted to, but they don't push it. I thought that was really interesting. I don't know what the reasons are behind it. I could be cynical or I could be accepting of what I think might be happening. I just don't know. But the fact that they have it and don't push it tells me something. Anyway.
We need to kind of wind this up and get on with the rest of our meeting. Are there any other questions from the council at this point? Ty, anybody? Thank you, sir.
If you guys have any questions, with the Badger master meters, we can get you with Schultz's anytime, any questions you have in the next 2 weeks. They're open, they'll come anytime. Dave Walsh with Badger happened to be doing delivery. He's swung by today. He's here. But anyway, if you have any questions about this stuff, they would be so glad to answer them. Okay? Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for all the work. See you, Rachel.
Okay, we'll move then on to our working agenda. Item F1, discussion on impact fee analysis update. Where are we at with this one?
So
What's that?
we did.
Yes, I did. By the way, let's have a public forum. If anybody is here that would like to address the city council at this time with any item that is not on the agenda, we'd be happy to hear you for 3 minutes and try to answer any questions we can.
I'm Jake Peart, 1661 South Shop Road Rider, Tocqueville. I just want to, I want to make this announcement. There's this Restore the Bill meeting held this Saturday in Cedar City at the Staley West building. Seth Kesh will be there. He's been instrumental in the audits of Georgia and Arizona. And I also want to ask for you guys to encourage whomever, legislatures, commissioners, all government officials to have an audit done. I mean, obviously, 100% of votes. Who was here, Justin? I mean, it can't be right. Votes are right. But actually, I am really concerned in all seriousness. I am very concerned about the integrity of our voting systems. And I would encourage you to reach out to commissioners and to legislatures and your part to have an audit done throughout the county, throughout the state. And they all claim that we have the gold standard for election integrity, so let's show it. Let's do the examples, let's show it. We'll do that. And come to this 10 o'clock on Saturday at State Hospital.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Anyone else? All right, then now we will move on to working agenda, discussion of impact fee analysis update. This is what we heard in our last meeting from Fred Philpott.
It is, yeah. So we had the assignment as a council to go through the information that he provided, review those impact fees, so that we're ready to make a motion on it in 2 weeks.
Okay, has there been any, is there any discussion at this time on the impact fee analysis?
The
But it's in your documents.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the rate per year, the impact rate per year for the next 10 years?
Yeah, that's what Ash paid for it.
So he has 2021 with 542 connections. Is that what it says? How many connections do we have in Tocqueville lands? Yeah. I had not seen that.
That's not for Tocqueville. That was Tocqueville?
Should be.
Was that was what he thinks we have, or what?
Yeah, we're going to
Progress, or that's what we were going to add to? That's what we were adding to. That was our total.
I think that's our total, and that's what the projection is. Council we're gonna do. But, right now, these projections are based upon engineers, and most of them in the state projecting a 4 or 5% growth. But I know Hurricane had 10% so far this year. So, Southern Utah is just, as we know, they're coming.
Yeah,
That-
he
that's what-
says in there, the reason he gave that is to show that historical curves aren't accurate. And so be careful and be cautious, and they're going to do the same. Yeah.
So if I recall during the presentation, Ty mentioned there were a couple of unique things about our city that their formulas didn't necessarily tie into what we need. And I didn't know if you had a chance to review and decide if their numbers are good or if adjustments need to be made.
So most of their stuff's fine. Where we find, typically for Tocqueville City, where we find the largest discrepancies in our park impact fee. And part of that is we've acquired so much land. So when you take that evaluation, so what they're doing is they're taking a cost, a level of service and dividing it out. But in our level of service, we have downtown, Center Street Park. We have these big parks that aren't all developed, but they value the land at the current value of land prices. So what it does is it skews, take 700 people and you divide it by that level of service. And it's skewed because of the land part of it. Because our parks aren't developed any nicer than anybody else. I mean, they're developed way nicer than everybody else. But we have a lot of land, and that drives the value up. So if you look specifically at parks, that was the largest impact fee raise. And we have, historically, we've never been able to justify or feel like we could take that complete part. That finding's always been the same. And so we've always cut that down pretty dramatically to make it look, to help it out a little bit.
Okay, so what would we need to do then if we're going to vote on this? If it needs to be cut, do you have a recommendation as to?
So because
Or it should be.
it's Park and Recs, I'm going to defer to Justin. That's an item he's got to work through and really come up with what your evaluation for that is. And I think when you take the land, you can kind of really dissect what it is.
Yeah, that's a little high. So,
I mean, I like to build parks, but I don't.
Lance?
My biggest thing with like on parks, I look at the parks with that and you piece them together. Even Center Street Park, even TRE, we have not completed a park yet. I mean, what are these pictures of what we have down at Center Street? I mean, it isn't half of what we want to have there. It isn't complete. And that's my whole thing with the parks. Did raise your impact fees to what they suggest, where they're the experts, that they suggest. You can have things complexes like they have in St. George, but if they come in, they develop the thing, it's bid by contractors, it's not pieced together, it's put in, we have the money to pay for a contractor to come in, do the project in 9 months, and kids are playing and having a fun time. Instead of, this park was built in 2002, 20 years ago, and we're still modifying, trying to get it to, trying to make everything work. We took out the basketball court, put the pickleball court in, well, we should have just, but we didn't have the money. So, when we talk about that infrastructure and that stuff, these guys, the reason we pay them, the reason we pay these guys to do our part, is because they do them and they know the cost of it. And I just don't want to so short. And it's the impacts are affecting the people moving in here. It's not our, well, but eventually they're going to be our citizens. But I think that impact is what's coming in here. And they want high services and they want those parks complete. And I think that's what this budget that he's proposing gives you. So that's just my say.
And when he was here, go ahead.
In the calculations, the one thing I want us to keep in mind is this document I had Dana pull up. Their growth curve is, in my opinion, horribly off. They're projecting that by 2030, we're going to go from 600 homes, which were already about 720, to only 900 homes. I think that's way up. I think we're going to see in the probably 2,000 range homes by 2030. And that's a problem for us because if we don't take that into consideration, for example, the parks, we might have the land, but if we try to trim that back too much, what's going to end up happening is we're going to have this growth, then we're not going to have money we need in order to build on those lands. So I just want us to be cautious of making some false presumptions because some of the data they have here, I think, is too conservative.
Historical integration into Washington County is about 3.5%, and then you're seeing Perkins City and some of these other municipalities where there's a lot of private land and you're seeing a lot of development growth, they're seeing anywhere from 10 to 13%, which is 3 to 4 times historical immigration. So it is something that we need to definitely look at. I'm looking at what the Ash Creek's numbers and that same 2030 number that they have at 970. He has it 1355, which is almost 100 million cops, just in some data that they have that Kim Garner Institute.
We'll go to the parking impact fee analysis sheet. No, it'll be broke down by the park, so it'll show you how he gets to that number. Yeah, I don't have it open, so I'm waiting for you. It breaks down the assets of the parks. And
Should be around page 10 or so.
Okay.
There, she's got it there now.
So here's my point. Just so that Keen's got us up on. Okay.
It's page 10 of that document right there, Dana. Go to page 10.
So, I'm just telling you, every council thus far has really had a hard time ever passing what's been presented. So I'm good with passing this, but just be aware of that. What my point is you can't, the way that it's described, we take 17.12 acres of park, eligible park 17.12. You got the same thing up there. Then they take the land and they value that land at $1,369,600. Okay. And then they take and they take the total improvement value, which is $3 million. So now we're at $3,137,986. That's saying that our citizens of 700 connections, their level of service is 17.12 acres of developed park, right? So if you divide that back out, then that's how this comes from. So that's why I'm saying, like, our land value really skews that number because we have so much land for parks for so few people, in essence, 700 people. But that's why that number goes up as dramatically as it does. So that's the concept behind it.
17
No, we have more than that.
acres of improved park property.
So it's all park. So all combined, all park land. And I said more than that. Lance, you know the number right off the top of your head, right? There you go.
I've been,
You pulled that out of the thin air,
Top of
didn't
my
you?
head.
Yeah.
hold on, improved.
That was
park.
impressive, I will say that.
Improved park?
No. So, but it's not all about improved park. It's about.
Well, I know, but when they're factoring in the value of unimproved land that's allocated for parks into a level of service, that's where you're.
My point is, we don't have $3.1 million worth of infrastructure in any of our parks combined. Right?
So if we're using that as the, yeah, if we use that figure, that's gonna be a little high.
But if we had to buy it today.
And again, I'm just saying, like, take a big picture back. That's the one item of the whole thing where it's like, okay, this is why you can figure out that the number's as dramatic as it is. So it's the one item in there that's always kind of been, hey, we can lower that one where we've tried to keep the water, which is, and streets and storm drain in that same, and really this is the first evaluation we've done of storm drain since we put it into place. So it'll be high as well. But anyways,
I do like Gary's question, which is, so are we going to be prepared next week to say, all right, let's vote on the changes we're going to adopt, or do we need to have more discussion on what they need to be each category?
well, so for me personally, I'm not ready to do anything on this because I'm doing other stuff. So
Okay,
I would love to postpone this, but that's on you guys.
can someone make a phone call to them and say, that number needs to be adjusted and the
Oh, so
population
we can
growth
make
needs to be
adjustments,
adjusted.
the council can make any adjustment to that going down, and then Fred can plug that in and send it back. Right, because that's the max number that's justifiable. We can lower any of those numbers and they'll put them back in. Does that make sense?
Do we need to make a phone call to him and ask him to do that, or just, we're okay approving it and then dealing with reality?
So no, we'll approve it. When our approval of this has to identify what that value, what that dollar.
We can change that dollar value ourselves and say, this is, instead of going the full, whatever it was, $6,000 per park, we could say we want 5,500 or something. We could change those numbers.
And what about population, the point that?
So that'd be a conversation to call him about, but remember that's on the conservative side, right? So he's predicting less growth to spend that number on versus more growth, which then, that makes sense?
He has to have facts in order to stand by this. This is, if they ever come back on this is how they're coming back. So that's why we paid what we paid for them, is because that's what they do for a living. They put these things together for each city. And they have to make sure they can protect this in court. And that's why we hired them to do it. It's not just I come up with these figures or just saying, oh, we can do this. This is actually a legal document using court to say, we can stand on this.
Okay, now,
Gary, if you were to plug a higher population number in there, obviously the impact fee is going to go down. It needs to be dispersed more widely. They're using population estimates based off of historical growth and not what we're seeing in the last 2, 3, 4 years.
And for sure, we could call Fred and ask him to plug it in, but this is going to to be in the wheelhouse of where he's comfortable. He'll feel comfortable defending this.
Yeah, I would probably suggest that we adopt the impact fee analysis, but in the adoption, we propose if we want to reduce some of these fees by a percentage, that's usually the easiest way to do it is just a percentage. We do that. Because we can do that, just like Justin says, under the act, under the impact fee act in Utah, we have to have a capital facilities plan, we have to have an impact fee analysis, 2 documents before we can collect impact fees from anybody. And this is an update of one of the 2 documents. And then, but we do have discretion after that to do anything less than the maximum allowed.
so we just got a chart in the Dropbox that spread out the impact fees with annual graduated numbers. But prior to that, he had given us just one number that we needed, and we thought that was kind of high. So did he take the initiative to go ahead and try to spread it out over a 10-year term and do it that way, or what was?
Yeah, I'm not sure what he did there. I think if we're not ready, but I think we need to do this before the end of the year. I think we need to have this, if we postpone it until December, but this is something we need to get done before all the new development comes in. This is something I definitely want to get taken care of. So.
Keep in mind, it doesn't go into effect. I can't remember what Fred said, but it doesn't. There you go, 90 days from the time we adopt it. So.
Also,
Okay.
we plan on a public hearing for next meeting. I'm gonna come show tomorrow, Mr. Guys, not afraid.
So we don't have to make a
No.
motion on it in that, but we could do the public hearing and hear what has to be had, take
Decide
some
then whether
discussion
you
and then
want to postpone it
work
or
from there.
We change this all together, and we'll have to do it.
We won't, as long as we don't go above that.
No, we can't go above it.
Exactly.
We can go down.
So we can publish it, we can talk about it, as long as we don't go above that, we don't
I
have
wouldn't
to.
have to a second public hearing. We're adopting a ceiling, not actual, and not a floor.
And he's planning on being here next.
So, I think we should have the public meeting, absolutely, and then we can, come with some numbers. I'll have some.
I just know that he gave us one number, and
Originally.
we're all with sticker shock here, and then all of a sudden we see a new table that comes out, spreading it out over a 10-year period of time. I'm assuming that it's going to balance out.
Is he talking about gradual implementation, phasing it in up to 100%?
I don't think he was initially.
I don't see it in the sheriff. Is
The only 2 documents, well, there's 2 documents in the last time, I just put it in there, just answered the same document
Okay.
So did he have one at the last meeting that he put in front of us?
I don't remember a table. I remember him talking about it, but I don't remember a table. Do you remember a table?
I just saw the impact fees spread out for the next 10 years, where they go up every single year.
Oh, maybe I missed that. I was thinking, I know we.
Was that a recent email that just came through from him, or? And my mouse isn't working here, so I thought it was in the Dropbox.
All right. Any other discussion on that particular item? If not, then we'll move on to item number 3, discussion on request for proposal for city prosecutor and interlocal agreement.
This is a discussion item. It was one that I was working on with Kent. We've made the presentation previously about a way in which the city can pursue code enforcement, and that would be through going back and taking a close look at our ordinances and deciding which ones are critical and important and criminalizing them. When I say criminalizing them, I'm not saying like felonies, but I'm saying like a Class B misdemeanor, something simple that is more of a fine related fine, and then we could have the people who are committing the infractions cited for that and prosecuted. The way that you do code enforcement through a criminal prosecution setting is that you've got to have a justice court to if anyone challenges and doesn't just pay the fine, but they want to contest it, you have to have a justice court, and you need to have somebody prosecuting for the city. What I did was I provided Kent with a copy of a RFP, or a request for proposal, that could be submitted and circulated to interested individuals who would want to be the city's prosecutor. Usually I found in other municipalities that I've represented or communicated with that are using this type of model, mostly their city prosecutors are part-time Washington County attorneys who are moonlighting and doing prosecutions for the smaller cities on the side. And then I included in the box a copy of the interlocal agreement that the Virgin Town has with Washington County to use their justice court as the court, and you would be able to see in that if you look closely that they the arrangement is that their court staff, their courtrooms, their court staff, and all of the processing of fines, collections, keeping track of all those things. They'll do that for the city in exchange for 50% of the fee revenue that they get from the fines, which I think the city's come out a lot better ahead than the cost that they spend in doing that. Because I mean, it depends on how aggressive we're being, I guess, and having. But so I wanted to give you, I gave these to Kent. Kent wanted to have them on the agenda. Just for you guys to see. This would be what we would do. We would put out this RFP. We'd get proposals from people who would say, for this fee, I will act as the city's prosecutor. And then I wanted you guys to see what I have talked with the county attorney's office, and they have discussed this with the county commissioners, who indicated that they're fine with Tocqueville City. If we wanted to utilize it, they would put us on the same day each week as Virgin, Leeds, Apple Valley. Some of these ones we're doing the same type of an arrangement. We would do our prosecutions, I think it's a Thursday afternoon, would be there, and that they would agree to the same arrangements that they agreed to with Virgin, which is a 50-50 split of the funds.
Do we also take care of like insurance and FTAs?
Oh yeah. So if someone doesn't pay the fine, the judge will issue an order to show cause. They don't show up for the order to show cause. The judge issues a bench warrant. The bench warrant gets prepared, issued by the court, and sent out to the sheriff's department. So if they're slow and they want to go out and serve bench warrants and arrest people, if they pull somebody over and it shows they've got it, it's a little more teeth.
than
We have.
what we've ever had. And my suggestion, as you guys remember from my PowerPoint presentation, it kind of separates city staff and everyone from having to, they can take the complaints, but then it's a matter of just simply passing it on to the section of our code and the location, and the officer, the deputy sheriff can go out there, observe, see if he believes that infraction is occurring, issue the citation. And at that point in time, we as a city have no more involvement with the sites. We'll occasionally get a check for 50% of the fine.
You just have a sheriff's department, and they're not doing that, correct?
They will, under our, I think what we need to talk to them about is, right now, we have an arrangement with they are patrolling within the city. And I know, for instance, in Virgin, they agreed that they pay them an additional amount of money where they'll provide additional patrol time through the town, and they will serve and issue any citations requested by the town. So we may have to look at that too and see if there's going to be an increased cost for the sheriff's department to utilizing them for issuing citations.
I thought the council was looked at that, it sounds good. But the sheriff's department, I'm sure just because of
Well, our code would have to match the county code. They wouldn't do our own separate city code. It would have to match kind of what the county is, right? That's what
And my discussion with the county attorney's office and with the justice court was, he either has to match the county code, or we have to, at the time that we give the criminal referral to the deputy sheriff's department, give them a copy of the code section that they're going to go out and investigate, if they're going to cite it.
What about the codes that aren't covered?
Well, that's what I'm saying. We're not
That's
going to
what I
have
just
all of our, we're not going to have all of our codes criminalized. We might choose that, say, operating a business without a business license is a class B misdemeanor. Make that criminal, for instance. Okay. Well, we regulate business licensing within the city of Tocqueville. So if someone's out there operating a business, and we give them a copy of the code section of our code, says it's criminal, and we tell the deputy sheriff that when he comes through and comes into the town hall, hey, will you go and look at this one? Here's the code section. They'll go out and cite him for it. See, what they don't know is they know the county code well. They just don't know our code. And so either we have to mirror theirs, or we have to be able to tell them and inform them, this is the code section, this is the possible.
Okay.
Take this.
I did. It was a nuisance code that you'd sent over to me.
Well, what it is if we send out a notice of nuisance to someone in order to correct it, and they do not correct it, there's actually a state code for not correcting a nuisance, which is a class B. So, kind of, we would do our piece, and if they don't comply, then the county can have another state code.
Seeing if it's a violation of state law, then we don't even have to pay our prosecute county attorney's office to prosecute that.
I think that's
Just like if someone's pulled over for a traffic violation or something, carrying a firearm, whatever, the crime is that they got. If it's a violation of state criminal code, then the county attorney's office prosecutes it if they're cited here within time bound, the city boundaries and not with this.
But if we move forward with this, we wouldn't be obligated to use it if it's a state code that.
Yeah, we would actually, our preference would be then to prosecute under state code
Right,
first.
so it would be either or.
Yes.
Is there a downside to this that you can see?
Well, right now we're not doing anything, so we're not having a whole lot of expense at it. But this would create an expense. I think the downside is that we would see an expense as the city doing that, but I think it would be a much better, the deterrent would be greatly increased.
But you're also doing that 50%.
Yeah, I just don't think it's going to be
Is the revenue gonna
Kind of
cover,
money.
will even the 50% cover our attorney fees? We have to hire an attorney to prosecute, so,
Well, 50% of that, that's what he gets paid.
well, that's what the court takes 50%, and he
Yeah,
gets
the
the other
court-
50%?
They're found guilty, they pay a fine based on the uniform,
Right.
bail schedule in the state of Utah.
So what are you gonna cover them?
No, it won't cover attorney's fees.
Yeah, I think it would. You're gonna be paying the attorney fees.
Yeah, you're gonna be paying attorney's fees. So you don't know how many citations are gonna be issued. I would suggest what you'll see in the RFP is we've asked for them, if possible, our preference would be that the proposal be on a per prosecution basis, type thing, unless they wanted to propose also kind of like a flat fee. I'll do all of your prosecutions for $2,000 a month. Well, we better be getting the money's worth if we're gonna do that much, or we might say $400 a prosecution, or something like that, or $300, whatever. We'll have to see what the proposals are.
Okay, anything else on that particular item? What's that? Yes, I think we do, don't we?
Well-
If they're getting 50% of everything they possibly, what keeps the judge unbiased?
Well, it's not just, it's the county, you gotta pay the clerks, the bailiff, they're not making money. I mean, that's not, I don't, yeah.
If you're not guilty, there's no fee. If you're guilty, there's fee.
Yeah, I mean, if you're found guilty, you have to pay a fine.
Like a speeding ticket.
Don't go to court.
So next agenda, it's, are we gonna send out an RFP? Is that what?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question is, after I made my presentation, 2 council meetings ago, I told Kent that I would give him the documentation, something similar to what we had done in Virgin. So I cleaned and whitewashed their RFP, and I gave you a copy of their interlocal agreement so you guys can see those steps. The next step would be to decide, do we want to use this as our code enforcement model in the town? And if so, then yes, send out RFPs, have Heath get a draft of an interlocal agreement from the county attorney's office, which is going to look identical from Virgin. And then we probably need to talk to the sheriff's department if they're going to be any additional charge for providing services of citing people under our code section.
So just so we know, I mean, it's gonna, I'm not saying we don't want to do it, but it's gonna cost us to pay the sheriff's deputy, and then it's gonna cost us to pay the attorney every month. And then if we get any fines, we'll get half of the fines back. So it's definitely not,
No cost for the court. There's
Well-
going to be a cost for the prosecutor.
right, the prosecutor,
And
the
there's
court
gonna be
takes half.
Possibly there's going to be a flat fee, or we're going to start paying a fee to the sheriff's department. to
Yeah,
be
the larger.
Basically being our guys in uniform to go out. And I don't know if that's $500 a month or what that is that they're going to charge, but then we take those 2 numbers and then we subtract what we may think. And I can get numbers on what Little Virgin is getting in their fine right now. They've been doing this for about a year now.
The alternative to this is to basically do away with all of our ordinances that say you can't do this, you can't do that.
Yeah, we gotta enforce it.
Because if we're not going to enforce them,
Why have them?
we shouldn't have gone down that path in the first place. But we did, and here we are. Did you have something?
Basically, it was that our biggest complaint from the citizens we hear, how come you guys don't enforce what we have on the books?
And that's a legitimate complaint.
We just have it.
All right, anything else on that? All right, moving on down then, discussion ordinance 2021-.11, temporary fireworks ban termination.
That's pretty easy.
We're going to do away with the temporary fireworks ban, is that
I
right?
mean, that's what the code says, and I don't think there's a reason to leave it in place.
Question. You said the code said that it's temporary, it has to go away.
No, that's what we adopted. So the language we used said it's prohibited until the temporary ban is lifted by a proper vote of the council.
And you lift it because
Why
It's
not?
not July.
Or- Yeah, it's not hot, it's not dry, we've had some rain. Yeah, they can,
They're still a state code when you let them off.
right.
Maybe it's still because of the dryness.
Yeah, I see no reason to keep the ban on.
Does the fire district have any position or advice on this?
No, as long as we, gotta get it because the dryness is the main thing. Pretty much done almost all state with it.
Yeah.
This year. So normally, I've been doing this for a lot of years. And this is like the first year that we really haven't had fireworks. Whether we're set up like we did today. And people enjoy it. Sometimes you just gotta change it. It's too bad we didn't have this country under December.
Should've thought about
Let's
that.
celebrate when Washington looked at Trump. Delaware.
Yeah.
It'll be cold.
I don't think there was any celebration going on that one. Okay, any other discussion on that item? Okay, we'll move that on then. Item number 5, discussion on expending ARP funds.
Okay, on this ARP fund, I believe we'll be bringing that up. The thing that I wanted to bring up is we'd like to get a trailer that would be able to legally haul our mini X one we have now. We keep breaking the axle, just breaking it there, we weld it, and then the other side we break and weld it. It's just an over trailer. We'd like to do that. That's the $9,000 flatbed trailer and the mini excavator.
What's the GVW on that?
It's 17,000.
Do we have health cards or CDLs for any of our employees?
I have brought in
You got them both? Are you the one pulling it?
Yeah.
Just need to make sure that
Our vehicles registered for like 20,000 pounds, or trucks, I know the state.
21,000.
Is that where we're at?
Well, it's off the stick on the truck, so
Okay.
you're gonna be right in that range. But just a question for me, I have zero issue buying a trailer to
Yeah.
do this. So,
And I think it's a one-time buyout of the ARP money, this is perfect.
so Lance, how many proposals did you get? Did you just call, did you find a couple or what are you?
got online and found one that would fit that thing. And it was
So,
just up north. We haven't looked.
I would call
I
it,
did call Trailer Source. They were $2,000 more than.
so let's just get a hard copy, get a price from Tyler, call Bo over at Wheeler's, get a copy from them, call Case, and then call up to Western States Trailer and just get a couple prices so we can put it away. Yeah, just specify the what we, yep.
Yeah, I'll try to get those bids. Just to bring you up to date, the 25,733 was a pump house generator. That's a one-time purchase. That's our backup generator we wanted to put up there. We ordered that back in September to try to get it in. Because of all the problems and everything we're having, it pushed us back until like April, March, April.
So Lance, with that, have we got some money budgeted to have an electrician come in and get it all terminated and ready to go?
They're putting that all in the back box.
They're doing the whole thing. Perfect.
The only thing we have to do is a pass in their path, but obviously, so we know exactly
And
where they're.
We did natural gas
We did.
or biofuel.
We did buy-
So diesel or natural gas.
I mean, pressurized propane, 50%.
So we're just gonna have like B&L go set a tank out there, be ready to go. Perfect. Okay.
We got it. That's included in that cost. For me, the Dolores program went ahead. We're going with that one. And the other questions we had is we do have this marquee sign. We put a speed elevator, a speed control on ours. We've been using over in Westfield. Dayfield always have a lot of issues. I'll be honest with you, I think it's done wonderful. People are aware, they see it. I don't know. Dave says they're slowing down, and it does make, as you come down off that hill, we notice it. Our question is whether or not we want to get another one built and utilized throughout town to let people know when there's city council meeting, when there's events happening, whether or not we want to invest that money.
Or other speed control.
Huh?
There's other speed control
Yeah, another
issues for
speed
town.
control issue somewhere in town. The other thing that is not up there is we got about $6,000 we want to purchase for hands-free bathroom equipment for the Westfield Park. That is our toilets, our sink. We can use this COVID money to purchase those products. Part of that, COVID stuff. So It would give us two water fountains, 2 toilets, 2 sinks, just everything you need, pretty much like, all the bathrooms. Like, so it will just make everything just handsome. So we'd like to utilize that. The other one, everything else is pretty much done out. I will tell you, we did hire a new public works guy. He lasted a week, but it's got another job for us.
Started Wednesday, quit Friday.
Started Wednesday, Friday.
It was not a personnel issue, he just didn't like the guys.
He was driving from St. George and he found something over there. And then Monday, our guy that we have helping us right now, close to utilities and awesome. So we're down to just me and pretty JDs.
Did you say pretty JD?
I said pretty JDs. I gotta butter him up as much as possible. And we do got a new one coming in on. We're supposed to start crack seal on the 15th. They're doing an asphalt center, an asphalt convention down at Dixie Center. And once that Dixie Center, we get their brand new unit. So
Did we already borrow
Asphalt
that?
convention,
Did
really?
we already buy the
we've already
crack
bought
fill? Awesome.
the crack seal last year.
What do you have the roads identified?
We're driving around, yeah, just basically Tocqueville all. We already, one we're questionable, and I mentioned it was Troy. We have so much alligator down there. I don't know where to start.
Double chip seal. Go quick.
It would. Now, if that double trip here, what's Ty brought that up? We need to go to the county boys and get them up and see if they do well. This is the time to get them up so we can get on there again this week. That chips is done. So the county commissioners are the ones that said they would help us with there. Pressure on them. Especially if they say choice. If not, it's another year or so, we'll get some alligators or stuff.
Is there some accountability that we have with respect to the way we spend this money?
There is. We have to make it, we have to really tie it in how we can.
And we have to report it to whom?
It goes to the state.
It goes to the state.
State auditor.
We've gone through this, actually Kent went through this really well, went through it, justified everything, wrote it all down, documented how we utilize it, why it's benefiting the city, all that. So
And I'm not against the trailer for the mini excavator, but how did that tie into COVID?
like I said, he has that all tied in there. And how we tied that in.
Safety.
We gotta be able to get the machine over there properly with the right equipment. We just don't have it. It wasn't fitted into our standard budget, and that was one of the stipulations. It's not part of the actual budget, but it's something you have to have to maintain it.
Is this deemed a loan or a grant? I mean, is this something that we'd have to pay back if we don't spend it?
We don't pay this back. This is good. We got $102,000.
Don't fool yourselves. We're going to be paying this till we die.
We're paying.
Turn out of your pocket, Gary.
We got $102,000 this year. We got $102,000 coming next year.
Yeah.
Dana did receive a letter today saying that number may change. We don't know what that letter is about. But, yeah, I think like Salt Lake County, I read the other day, they got $65 million and they're using it to hire a bunch of safety personnel to go out and walk the streets and make sure people stay in space.
Okay.
We still have 25,000.
Anything else on that particular? Oh, go ahead.
One other line item that I don't see on there that is the highway software, the public works software. Run by the city instead, there's a portal that you can use, the community portal, so that they can apply for permits online. And the package with Kent purchase, I purchased, have that capability, is $2,000. And so you need to add that $2,000 to that, and that was an annual cost. Otherwise, every single person that holds any type of permit has to come in here with a copy. Good, so, I mean, it's something, yeah.
I thought that I works 3,500 took care of that.
No, that's the permit management, and so that's the contractor code enforcement, that's so you can do it internally. That bottom line, that 2,000, that's the public facing portal, that's the community portal. So if I'm a builder and I want to apply for a building permit, and I want to do it at 8 p.m. on Saturday when the office is closed, I can get on that portal and do that.
So this is similar to what our city works, I mean, what we have now, city inspect.
Yeah, exactly, it's that same thing. We move just to the 2 software packages that we have in iWorks right now, we will use that capability.
And the reason why we're looking at going to iWorks on where we already have city inspect. City inspect, we picked that 2 years ago, and it's been a wonderful item. Problem is we're not getting the support that we want. We want to just overwhelmed. We just anyway, we need somebody to make something down.
So we drop city inspect and
So
we
we
pick up
drop
iWorks.
city inspect and pick this up. So the costs of the $22,000 to do what this thing is I need city inspect.
So it's kind of a net zero change.
Yeah, yes, I think so. That's how it's going to turn out. So, yes.
Anything else on that item? All right, final item then is discussion on 2022 OPMA training. What's OPMA?
Open public meeting.
Okay,
It's the stuff we have to do. Heath did this for us last year.
right.
So Virgin, Rockville, all them up there, they want to know if we want to get together and do it all together.
I think 2 or 3 years ago, we did it together in Virgin. And all of us met there together and had it.
By all of us, you mean?
Of the cities.
And
Oh.
that's it. Yeah.
I think I missed that
So if you don't
one.
show up, then we have to have a second one for the ones who didn't show up.
Good, so why don't we just have Heath do it here?
Works for me.
Make it snappy.
Thing is, those guys serve lunch.
I'll buy pizza, Lance. I'll pick up some
Bring
pizza.
some gobblers and pizza.
I'll take care of that. So we need that for 2022, right? We've already had it for 2021, so we need to have open and public meetings for 2022.
Right. All right, great. So we'll move on to council reports. Mr. Sipp.
I have a solid waste meeting Monday, so I'll let you know in a week what's happening, changing there. Not much is going on. As JD said, our parks, we're working on the playgrounds now. We've got concrete in the ground. They've got the sidewalks around the playground formed up. We're gonna be pouring those very soon. JD's got the drain in the bottom of that tied into our storm drain, so it won't turn into a pond when we get a heavy flow or heavy rain, which we hope we get all the time. The playground company, I talked to him today. He would like to come install that playground next week if we possibly are ready. So I don't know if we're gonna be ready quite then, but it might be the week after that. The playground will go in. So, and then we'll grade around the playground and let the kids go play. So, and then I'm got a meeting with our parks draftsman. He's been so busy, but Monday morning at 7 a.m. I have a meeting with him to finish the new design on the park out there, just get it drawn up. We have the design, just get the drawings so we can bring them in and adopt the new drawings for the park. And then we can, this winter, my plan is to get all the, pretty much most of the stuff built in the park so we can plant grass come spring. So the sewer district is going well. There's a lot of stuff happening there. But all we need to know is that when we flush the toilet, it works right now. So everything's going great. So that's all I have.
Okay. Mr. Ellsworth.
Oh, where do I begin that company? I spent the last 2 days full-time going over city stuff, but essentially it's just continuation of what we already all know about. Basically the developments with Firelight and with the sports complex, but really I don't have much to report on yet. There's a lot taking place, but nothing that's quantifiable at this stage, so I don't have anything more.
Okay, Mr. Bringhurst.
Good, I got a lot of things. Just so everybody's up to date, I've reached an agreement with Bob Litchfield. He's agreed. He's in Mexico. He'll be back in States on Monday. He'll sign it and have it notarized and sent. It's coming to my home address, overnighted. I'll provide that back into here so we can sign it, execute it, and then we'll send him a copy. So that'll be done. That's in regards to the water line.
That goes through Litchfield's property.
Yep, and then Heath can probably update a little bit more on this, but for our next council meeting, so in 2 weeks, Heath is going to have the reimbursement agreement ready to go. We're gonna have a deferral agreement for the roadway width. So this was we have certain roads in the town that are going to be going down and tying into the park, this Tocqueville Parkway. Instead of doing curb gutter and sidewalk from the tie-in place to the end, we're going to do a 32-foot spine asphalt, and then as they develop, they'll put the curb gutter and sidewalk in. So it's a modified deferral agreement to get those connected. That's going to affect like Westfield Road, Center Street, Old Church. Yeah, some of those that are going to come down and connect. And that'll allow us, we're not tearing out all that curb gutter and sidewalk as they develop those parcels. So as the development goes on, they'll put in place that curb gutter and sidewalk to the asphalt grades that are set. So we've got that. Heath's working on that. You'll have that ready for.
Just so that you guys know, I created a folder in SharePoint, and I put a draft of an ordinance that I'd like you guys to read. It creates 2 new articles in our chapter 19 of our code. One is Article I, which is regarding developer reimbursement policies, and it sets forth the process by which the developer can request a reimbursement or partial reimbursement for them installing system improvements that are city system-wide improvements, which could be additional capacity, wider line, larger lines and things like that. Basically, I've looked through, I'd probably say 15 different cities' policy like this, because we need a policy in place so that every time there's something being built and a developer comes and says, okay, can we get reimbursed for half of this? This isn't all to service just our development. How are we going to do it? And there are 2 methods of reimbursement which the city will consider doing upon request. They have to apply, they submit documentation, it comes to the council, we would approve it. One is an impact fee reimbursement. Obviously, the improvement would have to be a capital improvement or something on our capital facilities plan, and they're doing it, and we would use, it indicates that we will reimburse them impact fees in the form of either giving them a credit or paying them as we collect them, but only in the type of impact fee that the improvement is that they're doing. So we're not robbing from Parks and Rec impact fee to pay a street or capital facilities project or something like that. The second type of reimbursement is called a pioneering or a public reimbursement process. If you've got a developer who needs to put in a long stretch off-site to get to their property, and that road, it may be a road with utilities in it, and they want to come be first out and pioneer and put that in, but it's going to benefit other property owners adjacent nearby. They can request a pioneering reimbursement, and the way that they would do it, they would submit an application, they would define a benefit area, who they think are all benefited property owners, and then we would notice that up. We'd have our engineer look at it. We would have a public hearing where all those affected property owners are given notice. And in that instance, what it does is if we approve it, we enter into a pioneering reimbursement agreement with them. One of those adjacent, you pay for the cost, you build the road, all on your dime. You have to obviously do it to our standards, but anytime someone comes to develop that is within this benefited area, we have to collect a reimbursement charge from that property owner because they're going to get some of the benefit from that improvement. But we put a limit. It can't last forever. Usually these agreements are like 10 years long. We won't put it into 30 years or perpetuity. So those are the 2 different types of reimbursements that we will consider, and it discusses the process they have to follow. and what has to be in one of these two types of reimbursement agreements. The second part is we're creating Article J, and that's going to give us guidance on deferral agreements. Now, we're probably familiar with doing deferral agreements when someone wants to build a house on a street that doesn't have all the improvements done on it. We don't know what the grade of the sidewalk or curb and gutter is going to be, and we say, okay, you just pay, or you agree to pay when it's time, your proportional share. This talks about that process more, but it identifies that if someone is going to defer improvements, like what we're talking, if for instance, Firelight says we're going to build a spine of the road and then we'll improve it as we come back in, that's what these types of deferral agreements are going to be. And in some cases, we're going to require them to put money on deposit for those improvements. We just don't want to spend it, put it in, only to have it torn out because we don't know what the grades are and everything, what needs to be in that road. So I'm working on a draft of just a standard reimbursement agreement and an improved or augmented deferral agreement, so that we can use those and they will track this policy. But I would like you guys to read that policy, and I think we do need to get that policy in place sooner rather than later. So I would definitely, I'd love to see if we wanted to adopt it at our business meeting. That'd be great. If not, it really should be the next meeting, because I think we already have
items that are going to be coming. I mean, Pond Hill Road has some enlargement on pipe that we're going to need to use some impact fees to reimburse for, that we need system improvements for. So Heath has those two that he's working on. Then we have to put together a landscape maintenance agreement that's going to be two-sided. We have a part that we agree to take care of the maintenance on the Tocqueville Parkway with UDOT. So I have that side that we have to have an agreement in place with UDOT on. And then there's an agreement that's going to be from the Firelight Group to the city that they're going to maintain the landscaping on certain identified streets within inside their project. So Heath has been tasked with drawing up both those agreements. The one that I have to have for next meeting is the Tocqueville, the Parkway expansion cost. So that agreement that states that any development along the Parkway is going to be assessed a per foot. So that email you sent me back with, just leave it blank and we fill it in once we get the cost estimates in. Perfect.
Yeah.
And I think
because that's something that you're going to have to work with Alpha to say, this is the cost per linear foot. And
so Todd's queued up, and Aaron at Horrocks to help me get that, but they said, let's wait till we get the bids in. So if you leave it blank and we can adopt it as a city, the verbiage of it, and then we can just plug that number in, then I can get, because UDOT will not transfer any money to our PTIF fund until I have that in place. So I have to have motion from the council saying that we have a method in
so I
place to do
wasn't
it.
thinking about that type of an agreement between us and UDOT. I was thinking
It has nothing to do with UDOT.
So just us with Firelight.
Yep. Or Lowe's or
anybody else
Litchfield, anybody that develops on it. Yep.
bypass road.
Yeah, so I have to have that in place, and that is the trigger that UDOT says, okay, they've got the way to do this.
I think
So
that's
we have
towards the back of my Charlie list.
I need it towards the front. Yep. So that's a big one that I need to get done. So that's
Manage some contracts and.
yeah. So that's landscape. That's Parkway. Sunrise Engineering is now in design on the Tocqueville Reservoir. They're working on the recreation plan. I have a meeting scheduled with them in 2 weeks so that we can go over and start working on what that reservoir looks like
Hey,
and the fire.
On that, will you check on how big a sewer pipe we really need to run from there up to the pressurized sewer? Because Mike Chandler says, we've been talking about 2 inches this whole time, and he said there's no way that 2 inches is going to work. He's talking minimum 6 inch. So if you would have him check into that.
From the bathrooms in the
From,
campground?
yeah, up to, because we have to pump it. It's got to be a pump station, pressurized sewer. So he's saying 2 inches isn't going to work.
He's seen kind of conceptual how many.
Yeah. And he's just looking at distance. His main thing is just the distance, friction loss and all that. So
Justin, I'll do anything for you. Thank you. So I'll take care of that. So Sunrise is working on that. Be aware of that. I got an email today from you, Ruth, about Joey Campbell had sent you some information, right? Or was that you, Dana? Archaeological study on the Parkway. So just so staff knows, just so staff knows, we have an archaeological Bighorn has done that. They're doing a little bit more for us, identifying that. So we have those studies done. Bighorn also has a cost estimate that's been sent to me. I'll forward it into the city I'll send it to you. The estimate to relocate. So we have through Shangri-La, we have a couple areas there. We want to do some LiDAR scan, do up a little history, write up a little thing on it, and do some mitigation to those petroglyphs that are in there. It was like $5,500 ish. Yeah, cost estimate somewhere in that. Yeah, so I have not tasked them with doing that, but it's something we're going to want to task them with doing. So that's just be aware that that is going on. Pond Hill Road we met on today. We talked about that in JUC. There's multiple, all the utilities are being relocated. No utilities are staying. They're all getting redone and put back in the roadway where they belong. Water, 20-inch, 12-inch, all of it is getting moved and put where it goes. So Darcy's group was not happy about that, but we're not going to build a new road and then have old utilities under it. It doesn't make sense, and especially 8 feet deep. So that got handled today. So we'll have those plans coming back to you. An update on the Parkway. So the Parkway is in for advertising. It's going to advertise this Sunday and next Sunday, run through the week, so it'll be in the Spectrum. Plans will be available on Monday. For staff here, the only way a contractor or anybody can receive those plans is calling in here, giving their name, contact information, and then a link to the plans. The plans are about 200 pages long. So we're not printing any in here. They're only getting sent via the electronic link.
It'll be their responsibility to go to the link, get it downloaded if they want to.
So plans will be available on Monday. On November 18th, we're going to do a show me trip. So we'll come here, we'll meet, and then we'll drive them through the project, answer questions that they have. And then the bid date is scheduled for December 2nd with an anticipated start date of like January 15th. So we're hoping.
So you're going to open the bids on December?
December 2nd.
Okay.
December 2nd, bids will be open here.
Good.
That leads to the next point. This hasn't been sent to the city yet, but I'm bringing it up now. I had talked last time about that we are engaging with a consulting company to help manage and take care of the whole project from beginning to end. They have provided a cost estimate. I'll be providing that to the city to go into our documents. So I'd like that on our next agenda. That total, as of right now, is $396,335.57, and that's to manage the project beginning to end. So they interject themselves now. They work through the bid process. They do all of the documentation, execute the bid, award, bonds, the whole thing. So what that'll change is our staff, instead of trying to figure out how to do that, we're going to hire somebody to do it. They'll provide the documentation and all the information to go back to the state. So at the end, we give the state a project that's done and built to their standards. So that will be on our agenda. That will also be paid out of the $18.2 million. So we have dog-eared $2 million for construction management and taking care of the project. So that'll be one of the items that will come out of it. The other item that will come out of that is I have a meeting scheduled with Steve Wells at Landmark, who's our professional services for testing. That's who's going to do the testing on the Parkway. So we're going to meet with them. Instead of just having an open-ended contract, he's going to give me a hard bid for the project. So that we have all that put together. And as soon as I have that number, I'll get that into this council as well. Any questions on those? Okay, good. So be aware of that. So Ruth, if you can have that on, I'll send you the proposal so you can put it on.
One quick question.
Yes.
So those bids obviously will come back in, right?
Yes.
Where do you want them stored?
So they need to be stored here and locked and key. And typically they've been left in the mayor's office. That's typical. I don't know. It's been such a long time since we've done it, but they have to be sealed. We will not accept them. And if we need some, yeah, and if
we have a safe here, a lockbox.
Okay, so just make sure that's where they go. Very critical. I think that the deadline to turn them in is 2, or is it 2 p.m.? You will not accept a bid after 2. If it's 2:05, you say, I'm sorry, it's too bad, and you send them on their way. So if you need a little training on that, we can go over it. And then Stanley Consulting will come in with us. We'll open them here. So staff will be here. I'll need probably you here to take notes. as we open those up, and then we'll work through that. We won't make award. We'll identify a parent low bid. We'll do an evaluation process with the city staff and Stanley, and then send out a notice of award. So that's high level the process. Let's see here. So off of all of my soapboxes, we need a voting box in Tocqueville. The fact that I had to drive to Hurricane to cast my ballot for city councilman in Tocqueville is super frustrating.
And mayor.
We need a box here. So whatever that takes, we need to have a box here so our citizens, if we can't vote in person in Tocqueville, then we need to have a box here so our citizens can come in, drop them off. And that's how we got 2 years to figure it out. So however that happens, let's make sure. So
Actually, the county did. The county made it.
Well, they made it legal to do vote by state, county,
Right.
county choose to do the vote by mail.
And so we have no choice in that. It has to be by mail unless the county commissioners change it. I know because I was frustrated with it. I don't like it. I talked to the commissioners about it, and they say, well, what did you call it? The golden standard?
Yeah.
And I do believe that they're doing a great job with it. I still don't like it because it opens doors for all sorts of abuse. If we can't at least get a box here, we can drop it off. It's ridiculous. We got to drive somewhere to drop it off.
We gotta pay postage.
If we're not going to allow in-person voting, at least have a box where we can drop it off.
It's after 8 o'clock.
What's that?
It's after 8 o'clock.
On voting day or right now?
And
I'll drive them over. I do not care.
Mr. Bringhurst has the floor.
So I really do want, if we can figure out how to do that, Mayor, I would love to have a voting box. in
I
Tocqueville.
think it's a great idea.
At least. A year. You said 2 years.
Oh, yeah, we have another one.
Election as well, but the mailing is required, so, but you can do 2 elections.
Well, I think as a council, we ought to talk about that because for me personally, I love that I can come in here and cast my ballot in Tocqueville. I would love to be able to do that instead of writing it on a thing, and putting it in the mail and sending it on its way. So as we move closer towards that, I'd like to get that handled. And
So
then-
how is it that virgins still can't count their votes if they have all voted out by mail?
Magic.
We still have no results for virgins.
Well, I have a really,
Oh, do you?
And then
who won or didn't win?
the last item I have, we had budgeted, Dana, to spend about $5,500, have a motor grader come in and do the dirt roads in town again. So we'll be doing that hopefully within the next 60 days. All city roads. Yeah. And it'll just be dirt roads. We'll go identify them. And we basically had them for a week, right time plans. We went and identified the roads and then they graded them up for us. Whoever we get with a grader to come do it. So I don't know who it'll be yet. So just be aware that that'll be going on as well. That's all I have, Mayor.
That's it?
It's a good list today.
Mr. Chaves?
Mosquitoes are fine. Planning, Confluence Park, they've got that stairway built now, and there's a trail that takes you right down to the bottom of it, and it looks good. I've already gone down it a couple of times. And on the Planning Commission, Joey's got a memo here. The commission's still working on the resort zone overlay. They're getting close to having a way to calculate ERUs for future projects. And this month, they'll also be working on conceptual MPDO for Firelight, a zone amendment application, and a few nightly rental applications as well.
That's it?
Okay,
Mr. Williams?
nothing on trees, but I would like to reiterate, put a plug in for the Reach Across America thing that's gonna come up on the 18th of December. We had a really good turnout last year. And had a good program. And Greg Turner does a really good job. So you need to advertise it. I'll help get that advertising out. Have people show up. It's kind of important. Probably wouldn't be here without the military. So it's not fun with me.
Didn't they fight a war sometime back in the 1700s that was fairly important?
Chuck was there.
That's true. Me and George.
So what do you have planned for the Christmas program? Like, do you have a weekend of Thanksgiving?
Oh, you mean the
Christmas lighting program?
Yes, absolutely.
So is there something that?
Yes, I'll give you something.
We need to get lights up too. I don't know.
Yeah.
Where the
My family
falls.
had last week, last year.
Last year.
We did have a family come in and volunteer.
What did?
Who come in and volunteer and help us out?
No, she just wanted to be notified if her kids need to be sick. She's gonna get a hold of your wife.
You good?
Good.
All right. I have nothing to report then on my end either. So calendar of events, Turkey Trails, Tocqueville Trails Turkey Trot, Thanksgiving Day at City Park, Reach Across America, December 18th. And number 3, a special city council meeting for official election results will be held 5:30 p.m. in this room on the 10th, which is 1 week from today.
Everybody need to show up for that?
Yes, we do. We have to vote to ratify the election.
So
I'm out of town that day.
I'm
And-
not,
What's that?
I'm in Vegas that day.
Okay. So after that meeting is over, we'll go right into planning commission, which is at 6 o'clock. So we do have need for a closed session this evening.
So moved. Second,
Okay, it's been
purpose of
purpose of discussing personnel.
modify the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to, let's see, go out of public session and into closed session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
We get 5 minutes for potty break.
Yeah, 5 minutes is all.
A tie break.
At 8:12.